The Science Expo filled the large city hall with light, voices and movement as students stood behind tables showing ideas they had built with their own hands. People walked slowly between rows reading posters and asking questions while cameras flashed and judges wrote notes. The air carried excitement and quiet pressure because everyone knew this day could change a future. At the far side of the hall near a plain white wall stood a young boy named Noah. He was 12 years old and smaller than many students around him, but his eyes were focused and calm. His table was simple with no bright colors or banners, only a clean board, drawings, and a working model made from old bottles, wires and fans. The title on his board said "Clean Water for Every Home." Noah had worked on this idea for many months in his small apartment where space was tight and time was limited. His mother worked long hours and Noah learned to be patient and careful. Every night he tested his model again and again, fixing small mistakes and writing notes in a worn notebook. He believed that clean water mattered to everyone, not just people with money. While other students talked loudly with friends, Noah stood quietly waiting for judges. Some projects nearby had tablet screens and fancy decorations. Noah only trusted his idea and his hands. A woman in a blue uniform walked through the hall watching everything carefully. Her name was Officer Linda, and she was assigned to keep order and safety. She had worked many events like this and believed rules kept things fair. As she walked, she noticed Noah standing alone without an adult near him. She saw his table placed close to a door marked "Staff Only." Linda stopped and watched for a moment. She looked at the door, then at Noah, then at his table. She decided to speak to him. She asked if he was allowed to be there. Noah looked up surprised but answered politely that he was part of the expo. She asked for his badge. Noah took out a folded card with his name and school. The card looked old from being handled many times. Linda studied it slowly. Her face stayed serious. She said the table placement looked wrong and students could not stay near staff exits. She told Noah to step away until someone verified his registration. People nearby began to notice. Whispers moved through the air. Noah felt nervous but did not argue. He tried to explain that his teacher placed the table earlier. His voice was quiet but respectful. Linda crossed her arms and repeated that rules were rules. Noah stepped away holding his notebook tightly. His table stood alone and silent. At that moment his mother Maria entered the hall. She looked tired from work but her eyes searched for her son. When she saw Noah away from his table, her heart dropped. She rushed to him and asked what happened. Linda explained calmly that verification was needed. Maria said every form was completed and Noah belonged there. She tried to stay calm because she knew anger would only hurt her son. Linda said proof from an official was required. An announcement echoed that judging would begin soon. Noah looked at his model with worry. He whispered that he needed to turn it on before judging. Linda shook her head. Maria placed a gentle hand on Noah's shoulder and told him to breathe. Across the hall, a senior judge named Mr. Brown noticed the tension. He had seen many projects, but something about this moment caught his attention. He walked closer and asked what the issue was. Linda explained the situation. Mr. Brown looked at Noah's table and leaned closer to the model. He asked Noah to explain his project. Noah hesitated, then spoke softly. He explained how dirty water entered the system and passed through layers made from cheap materials. He showed how families could build it without expensive tools. His voice grew steadier as he spoke. Mr. Brown listened carefully and nodded. He asked Noah to turn the model on. Linda stepped back slowly. Noah rushed to the table and flipped the switch. The fans began to spin and water flowed through the system. Clear water poured into a small cup. The nearby crowd fell quiet. Mr. Brown smiled and thanked Noah. He told Linda the placement was acceptable. Linda stepped aside without speaking. Noah returned behind his table with shaking hands but steady eyes. The judges moved on, but people kept looking. Some whispered with interest, others took photos. Noah stood quietly, not knowing this moment would change everything. After Mr. Brown walked away, the hall returned to its normal noise, but Noah felt like the air around him had changed. People who had ignored his table before now slowed down to look. A few parents leaned in and asked quiet questions. Noah answered in simple words and showed the clean water cup again. Maria stood beside him, trying to hide how much her hands were shaking. She kept her face calm for Noah, but inside she felt a mix of fear, relief, and anger that her son had been treated like a problem before anyone even asked the right questions. Officer Linda remained a few steps away watching the crowd. Her posture stayed firm, yet her eyes did not look as certain as before. She glanced at the staff door again, as if the door itself had accused the boy. Noah did not look at her anymore. He focused on his project and the judges who would return for final scoring. A bell sound came from the speakers telling everyone that the final evaluation round had begun. Judges in neat jackets started moving in groups with clipboards and small badges. Some stopped at big colorful displays with loud demonstrations. Others walked toward quieter tables where ideas were more practical. Noah's table was still plain, but now it had a tension like a small light that refused to go out. Mr. Brown spoke to two other judges as they approached Noah's road. One judge was a woman named Ms. Green who worked in environmental science. Another was a man named Mr. Shaw who supported youth innovation programs. They had serious faces but curious eyes. Maria stepped slightly back to give Noah space. She knew this moment belonged to him. Noah took a deep breath and prepared his explanation again. Ms. Green asked what problem he was trying to solve. Noah explained that many families, even in cities, still face water issues and that some places have old pipes or unsafe sources. He said he wanted a low-cost home system that could help families in emergencies and also teach kids about filtration. Mr. Shaw asked what materials he used and why. Noah pointed to the layers and spoke slowly so they could follow. He explained the role of cloth, sand and charcoal and how each layer helped remove different kinds of dirt. He also explained how the fan helped with flow, and how the system could work without power if gravity was used. Ms. Green asked how he tested it. Noah opened his notebook and showed pages with dates, simple charts and notes about changes he made. The judges looked impressed, not because the handwriting was perfect but because the work was honest and consistent. Around them other people formed a small circle. Some students from nearby tables watched with surprise because they had never seen judges spend this long at a plane displayed. Ms. Green asked Noah what inspired him to choose this topic. Noah paused, then said his mother once brought home bottled water after a warning in their building. He said he saw neighbors worried, and he wondered why safe water could feel like a special thing. Maria swallowed hard as she listened. She remembered that week clearly, and how she tried to act calm while saving every coin. Mr. Shaw nodded with a thoughtful face. He asked Noah about cost. Noah answered with numbers he had calculated carefully. He explained how most parts could be found in recycling bins and how a basic version could be built for a very small amount. He said he wanted kids to build it in school clubs and learn science that mattered to real life. Ms. Green asked one more question about safety and cleaning. Noah explained how to replace charcoal and washcloth layers and how to keep the container sealed. He spoke with care because he knew this part mattered. The judges thanked him and wrote notes for a long time. Mr. Brown looked at Noah and said he respected the way he kept improving the model and recording every change. Noah nodded and said thank you. When the judges moved on, the circle of people slowly broke apart. Noah sat for a moment because his legs felt weak. Maria handed him a small bottle of water and he took a sip. She whispered that she was proud of his effort. Noah did not smile wide but his eyes softened. Across the row, Officer Linda was speaking quietly into her radio. Her face looked tight like she was thinking hard. She watched Noah again then looked away quickly. A few minutes later, an expo organizer named Mr. Davis walked up to Noah's table. He carried a folder and looked uncomfortable. He apologized for the earlier misunderstanding and said Noah's table placement was approved by staff in the morning. Maria nodded without smiling. Noah stayed polite and said it was okay. Mr. Davis asked if Noah needed anything and offered to move the table to a different spot if he preferred. Noah looked at his model and said he wanted to stay where he was because he had already set everything up. Mr. Davis agreed and walked away. Maria leaned closer to Noah and told him he handled it with patience. Noah said he did not want trouble, he only wanted to share his idea. Maria understood. She had taught him that staying steady was sometimes stronger than raising a voice. Still her heart ached, because she wished the world did not test children like this. Time passed and more visitors came. A local reporter named Kim approached with a small camera and asked Noah if she could film his model. Noah looked at Maria and she gave a small nod. Kim asked simple questions and Noah answered in simple sentences. He explained what the model did and why it mattered. Kim thanked him and said she liked projects that helped real families. Noah felt shy but he stayed calm. As the day moved forward, the expo energy grew hotter and louder. People talked about awards and scholarships. Some students looked confident while others looked scared. Noah tried to ignore the noise and kept checking his system, making sure nothing leaked and that the layers stayed in place. He adjusted a wire and wiped a small drop of water from the side. He wanted everything to be right. When the final announcement came, in a corner of the hall, Officer Linda stood with her arms at her sides watching the crowd. Her face was still and thoughtful. She had not expected a simple table near a staff door to become the focus of so many eyes. She had not expected the boy to speak with such calm and knowledge. She had not expected her quick judgment to be questioned in front of judges. The day was not over, and something bigger was quietly moving toward Noah, like a door opening that he did not even know existed. The afternoon light inside the hall turned warmer as the sun moved lower outside. People began to look Tired, but the excitement stayed strong because everyone waited for the award ceremony. Students checked their displays one last time and parents stood close with phones ready. Noah stayed behind his table with Maria beside him, and both tried to act normal even though their nerves kept rising. Noah cleaned the small cup and reset the bottles so the water would run smoothly if someone asked again. Maria fixed the edge of his poster board and smoothed a corner that had lifted. She wanted everything to look neat because she knew small things could shape how people judged a child's work. A speaker announcement asked all participants to gather near the main stage area at the center of the hall. Rows of chairs faced a tall banner with the Expo logo and a large screen that showed student photos. Volunteers guided students into groups by category. Noah was placed in the Environmental Solutions group with several other kids. Some students looked at him with curiosity because they had heard whispers about what happened earlier. Noah kept his eyes forward and held his notebook close. He did not want attention for drama, he wanted attention for the idea. Officer Linda stood near the side of the stage with two other officers. She watched the crowd, but her eyes kept returning to Noah. She looked troubled, like she was carrying a stone in her chest. She had been trained to act fast and trust her instincts, but now she was thinking about what her instincts had missed. She replayed the moment in her head and wondered why she had assumed he did not belong. She told herself she had only followed rules, but the words sounded weak even to her. The ceremony began with a welcome speech from Mr. Davis, the organizer. He thanked sponsors, teachers and families, and said the Expo existed to give young minds a place to shine. He spoke about creativity and service and how science should solve real problems. Maria listened with tight lips because the earlier moments still sat inside her like a bruise. Noah listened too, but his mind drifted to his project and the judge's notes. He wondered if he explained things clearly enough. He wondered if his model looked too plain compared to other tables. He reminded himself that he did not build it for decoration, he built it for function. Awards started with smaller category recognitions. Names were called and kids walked up smiling and shaking hands. The crowd clapped and cameras flashed. Noah clapped for others because he respected their effort. Maria clapped too, though her hands moved slowly because she was tired. Every time a name was called, Noah felt a small jump inside his chest. He did not expect to win the top prize, but he hoped for something that could help him continued. Even a small certificate could mean a lot. Then Mr. Brown stepped onto the stage. His voice was calm and strong, and the room quieted quickly. He said there was one award that mattered to many people because it connected science with community impact. He explained this award went to a student whose project could help real families and whose work showed careful testing and honest effort. He called it the National Medal Nomination Award. The winner would not only receive a medal at this expo, but also move forward to a larger national recognition event. A hush moved through the crowd. Some students sat straighter, and some parents leaned forward. Mr. Brown paused and looked at the judge's table, then looked back at the audience. He said the student showed discipline and heart and built a solution that did not depend on wealth. He said the project was designed so anyone could learn and benefit. He said the student kept detailed records and improved the design through repeated testing. Noah felt his throat tighten. Maria slowly turned her head toward him as if she felt something in the air. Mr. Brown read the name. He said Noah. He said Noah from Lincoln Middle School. For a second Noah did not move. His mind went blank like a page with no words. Maria held his arm and whispered that they called him. Noah stood slowly as if his legs belonged to someone else. Students around him began clapping. Some looked surprised and some smiled. Maria's eyes filled with tears, but she did not wipe them yet. She just kept nodding as if telling her body that this was real. Noah walked toward the stage. The path felt long and bright. The lights made the room look softer, and his ears caught the sound of applause like waves. He climbed the steps and stood in front of Mr. Brown, who handed him a medal on a ribbon. Mr. Brown shook his hand and leaned down to speak quietly. He told Noah his work mattered, and his calm under pressure showed strength. Noah nodded and whispered thank you. He looked out and saw Maria covering her mouth with her hand as she cried softly. He also saw Officer Linda near the side. Officer Linda had frozen. Her face changed in a way she could not hide. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, then widened again. She looked like she had been caught in a sudden storm. The moment she realized the boy she tried to remove had just been chosen for a national medal, she felt a wave of shock and embarrassment. She could feel other eyes turning toward her because people remembered what happened. She swallowed hard and tried to steady her breathing. Her hands stayed at her sides, but her shoulders stiffened. She did not want attention, but she could not avoid it. The room had a memory, and the room had just seen the truth. Noah accepted the medal and posed for a photo with the judges. The big screen behind him showed his project name, Clean Water for Every Home. The crowd clapped again. A few people stood up. Maria stood too and held her phone with shaking hands to record. Her tears fell freely now, but her face also carried pride that looked bright and clean. When Noah walked back to his seat, students near him congratulated him. A girl named Sarah said his project was smart and kind. A boy named Ryan said he wished he had thought of something useful like that. Noah said thank you and kept his voice gentle. He did not boast because he still felt like the same boy who stood alone near the staff door, only now the room looked at him differently. After the ceremony ended, people crowded around winners. Reporters came closer and asked for interviews. Mr. Davis shook Noah's hand and apologized again for the earlier confusion. Mr. Brown spoke with Maria and asked about Noah's support system. Maria explained that Noah learned mostly from library books and free online videos and that he built the model with recycled parts. Mr. Brown smiled and said that kind of effort deserved doors to open. Officer Linda stayed near the side watching. Her face was pale. She felt the weight of the day pressing on her. She could see Maria hugging Noah and she could see judges praising him. She could see the crowd celebrating a child she had treated with suspicion. She wanted to tell herself it was only procedure, but the story did not fit anymore. She knew she had made a mistake. The question now was what she would do with that truth. That the day still had one more moment waiting. Then it would not be on a stage with lights, it would be in a quiet space where words could finally matter. After the ceremony, the hall stayed crowded for a long time because families wanted photos and students wanted to celebrate. Noah sat with the medal resting in his hands like it was a warm piece of proof. He kept touching the ribbon to remind himself it was real. Maria stood behind him with one hand on his shoulder and her tired face looked lighter than it had all day. People kept coming to the table to see the model again, and Noah kept explaining the idea in the same calm way. He did not change his voice to sound important. He spoke like the same boy who learned science at a kitchen table. A reporter asked Maria how she felt. Maria said she felt proud and grateful and also aware. She said some doors open late for kids who deserve them early. She said she hoped people would learn to look closer before making quick choices. The reporter nodded and thanked her. Noah listened and understood that his mother was speaking carefully but honestly. As the crowd slowly thinned, Mr. Brown returned to Noah's table. He brought a small envelope and a card. He told Noah the National Medal nomination meant the project would be reviewed by a larger panel. He said there could be scholarships, mentorship, and chances to present at a bigger event. Noah's eyes widened slightly. Maria held her breath because she knew what those chances could mean for her son. Mr. Brown also gave Noah the card of a local university lab that ran youth workshops. He said if Noah wanted to learn more about water systems, they would welcome him. Noah said thank you and placed the card inside his notebook carefully like it was a treasure. When the main hall lights began to dim for closing announcements, volunteers started packing boxes and folding chairs. Students carried posters under their arms and parents gathered coats. Noah and Maria began to pack the model. Maria wrapped the bottles in a towel so they would not break. Noah folded the board slowly and kept the medal around his neck because he did not want it to be lost in the noise. He felt happy but also quiet inside, like he was still catching up to the day. Near the staff exit, Officer Linda stepped forward. She waited until the people around Noah moved away. Her face looked tense but her eyes were steady. She spoke in a lower voice so the moment would not become a show. She asked Maria if she could speak for a minute. Maria did not answer right away. She looked at Noah, then back at Linda. Noah stayed still and listened. Linda took a slow breath. She said she wanted to apologize. She said she handled the situation poorly, and she made Noah feel like he did not belong. She admitted she moved too fast and did not listen enough. She said she was supposed to protect people, but today she had caused stress instead. Her voice was not dramatic, but it carried real regret. Maria's face stayed serious. She did not smile. She said her son belonged in every room he worked for. She said that when adults doubt a child for no good reason, it leaves marks that awards cannot erase. She said she accepted the apology because she wanted to move forward, but she also wanted Linda to understand the weight of that moment. Linda nodded and said she understood. She said she would think about it and learn from it. Noah finally spoke. His voice was quiet. He said he felt scared when he was told to step away. He said he tried to stay calm because he did not want to make things worse. He said he wished people asked questions first. Linda looked at him and nodded again. She said she was sorry. She said he did not deserve that. A silence passed. It was not an angry silence. It was a silence where something real settled into place. Maria placed the last item into the bag and zipped it. She told Noah they should go home because he needed rest. Noah agreed. He thanked Linda for apologizing because he did not want to carry hate. He only wanted to feel safe in spaces meant for learning. Linda looked down for a moment, then looked back up with a softer face. She told Noah she hoped he kept building and learning. She told him his project could help many people. Noah nodded and they walked away together. Outside the night air felt cool and fresh, the parking lot lights reflected on wet pavement from earlier rain. Maria and Noah walked to the bus stop because their car was old and currently not working. Maria did not mind, she had walked many nights after work and she could walk this one too. Noah held the bag carefully, and the medal still hung around his neck. A few strangers who recognized him from the hall smiled as they passed. One woman said congratulations. Noah said thank you. Maria felt tears return, but this time they were quiet and gentle. On the bus ride home, Noah leaned against the window. The city lights moved past like slow stars. Maria watched him and thought about the long nights he spent working while she worried about bills. She thought about the moment he was told to step away, and how quickly life can press down on a child. She also thought about the moment his name was called and how the room stood up for his work. She knew the win was more than a medal. It was a signal that effort could be seen even if it was not wrapped in shiny papered. At home their apartment felt small but warm. Maria made simple food and Noah ate slowly because the day had taken his energy. After dinner Noah placed the medal on a hook near his bed. He opened his notebook and wrote a new page. He wrote the date and then wrote what he learned. He wrote about answering questions clearly. He wrote about staying calm under pressure. He wrote about the way judges looked at his notes and how careful records mattered. He also wrote one line about the staff door moment. He did not write it to blame, he wrote it so he would remember that he deserved space and respect. Before sleep Maria sat beside him and asked what he wanted to do next. Noah said he wanted to improve the model so it could handle more water and be easier to clean. He said he wanted to teach other kids how to build it. Maria smiled softly and said she would help him find a community center or school club. She promised to make time even with work because this mattered. Noah nodded and his eyes grew heavy. In another part of the city, officer Linda sat in her car after her shift ended. She did not turn the engine on right away. She stared at the steering wheel and replayed the date. She remembered Noah's quiet voice and Maria's tired eyes and the medal on the boy's chest. She realized rules were not just about doors and badges. Rules were also about fairness and dignity. She knew one apology was a start, but learning had to follow. She made a personal note to request training sessions for event staff and to speak with organizers about better check-in procedures that did not embarrass kids. She understood that doing better was the only way to honor the truth she sought. Days later the local news clip of Noah spread online. People shared it because they loved seeing a child win through hard work. Schools invited Noah to speak to younger students. A small nonprofit contacted Maria and offered materials to build more models for classrooms. Noah did not become loud or arrogant. He stayed the same steady boy with a notebook and a purpose. The medal did not change his heart, it only gave his voice a wider reach, and every time he stood in front of a room of students he remembered one simple lesson: he belonged.